We're going to cover feeling discouraged, looking for work in this time. I think discouragement looking for work is fairly normal, and I like certain levels of it. I think looking for work can at times feel discouraging. I think at times it can feel heartbreaking. At times it can feel joyous, but if we find something and it works out. But I think in the pandemic that we're in right now, in the recession, looking for work, I think can at times feel really defeating, more so than normal. And I think it can feel like something is wrong, and that's something that I want to talk about in this video. So before we go forward, though, my hope with this video is if you're somebody, or if you have a friend, if you're somebody who is looking for work in this time, is getting a lot of rejection and feels like there's inherently something wrong that you're doing, and there's something that you need to fix, and you don't maybe you have some theories on what it is. We're going to talk about that, and my hope is that you'll walk away more skeptical of what you're doing that could be wrong, and basically feeling less discouraged that there's something wrong that you're doing, and more recognizing and realizing that we're in a very difficult environment and there's a lot of challenge. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, but that's my hope for this video. So when you are interviewing and you're looking for work, there's certain things that are in your control, like reasonably in your control, and there's certain things that aren't reasonably in your control. So for example, you can control what your resume looks like. You can control what your cover letter looks like if you submit a cover letter. You can control whether or not you reach out to somebody at the company asking if they will pass along your resume. And again, what's in your control is to ask, right? You can also control, in some ways, you have a lot of influence over what you say in an interview. But there's a lot of things in all of those pieces that you don't have control over. You don't have control over whether or not someone's going to actually read your resume, or that they're going to interpret it the way that you want them to interpret it. You don't have control if they're going to look at your cover letter. You don't have control if they're going to misinterpret you in an interview. And you don't have control if they're actually going to, if you ask somebody to push along your resume throughout a company, you don't have control that they will do that. And so because there's a lot that's not in your control, it's ripe for discouragement at times, because things will happen and you'll feel discouraged. And this is normal. When looking for work, at times I feel discouraged. At times I can feel heartbreak at times if I really was hoping for something and it didn't work out. And I think that these sorts of emotions can be pretty normal. But what I'm seeing happening as I talk to people who are looking for work, and I reflect on my own experiences in this time, I think because it's so difficult, I think that people are hearing things and suspecting things that are the culprit for the rejection that they're facing. They're trying to figure out, why am I getting this rejection? How do I stop it? And they're starting to point inward and say, what's wrong? What am I doing that's wrong? And they might be feeling a sense of dread, like, what is wrong here? I want to address that. The first thing I want to address is, I will say it is from my personal experience, it is a very challenging time looking for work in this pandemic recession. It's very challenging. And what I also think is happening, what I suspect is happening, is that people who would have, we've had so many people in the U.S., I'm going to specifically talk about the U.S. here, but I mean, globally, this has impacted the whole world. But, speaking for the U.S., we've had millions of people who have filed for unemployment. Many people have been furloughed. We've had entire industries from the pandemic that have been really, really hurt by this. And so what's happening is you have people from these affected industries that are potentially flooding into job applications for jobs that are in maybe other industries. And so, this is sort of a reality of things. And what that means is that the competition is really high. So whereas maybe in the past, if you were interviewing, let's say you're really good at, and let's just say you're really good at interviewing. Let's say you have a lot of really good skills for the type of job you're looking for. If you go up to that job interview 6 months ago, 7 months ago, 8 months ago, well, let's say it's like January, I would imagine that your ranking in that hiring pool, our ranking in that hiring pool, would have been a lot higher in January than now. And that's a symptom of the recession and the pandemic. So why do I bring this up? What I see happening is I think people are receiving feedback about their interview performance and their resume that hints or says that there's something wrong, but what is actually happening is there's this systemic, rapid increase in competition that is really what's driving here. So, for example, there was someone I talked to a couple weeks ago. I was helping with their resume, and they said, I did a phone screen, and then they passed on me. And they said, they never pass on me. I always get the second interview. I never get passed on in the first interview. What happened? And like, what did I do wrong? What's going on? And what I told them was, I said, I think this is a systemic. This is a symptom of the environment that we're in. This might be a symptom of the environment we're in. I had another person very recently, that I'm as we were discussing, communicating about their experience. And they said that they're facing overwhelming rejection. And I don't know if they had gotten this feedback from somebody else or if they were kind of trying to piece it together themselves, but they had pieced together like one or two things. They were like, I think this is what's wrong and what I need to fix. And what I told this person was, I said, we're in a very challenging time. And what I think is important to recognize here is that if you're overwhelmingly getting this feedback, like you don't have enough skills for this job, or you don't have this one skill that they want for the job, or you don't have this one piece of experience, you might be getting that feedback from the interview cycle. And what's really happening is that they're getting maybe flooded with applicants, and there's maybe like, let's say 2 or 3 people who are just all-stars, and they probably normally would be looking for a different job that maybe doesn't exist anymore, or because of this cascading effect, they found themselves pushing in different areas that they wouldn't normally have been. And so what happens is you have these extremely highly skilled people who are looking for work, and they find something that's basically identical to what they can do, or what they appear to be able to do. And so I think this might be happening. And so I'll give you kind of a hypothetical example here. Let's say you've got a company, let's say it's a restaurant, and they're looking to hire a chef. And let's say normally they would look for work, and let's say they maybe get like 1 to 2 applicants that are like really, really good. And like if they're lucky, they'll get like an all-star amazing person, right? But now we're in a pandemic recession. And let's say that a lot of restaurant industries have been adversely affected. So there's a lot of people who maybe are looking for work, right, in this industry. And so what ends up happening is that means the competition has gotten really rampant. So let's say that this company that normally would get maybe 1 or 2 like pretty good people, maybe 1 all-star if they're lucky, let's say they get 5 all-stars. And let's say that a chef applies who's one of those all-stars. Let's say that they're on kind of the lower band. Let's say they're an all-star. They could do a great job during doing this job, and the company knows it. They look at these 5 people and they're like, all of them are great. They could all do the job. But here's the problem: they only have space for 1. Well, what do? They have 5 great people, so maybe they think to themselves, well, what's our next seasonal dish that we're going to be doing? Well, we're going to have 3 months. We're going to have the seasonal like fish dishes. They're going to be like the chef's specialty, like the thing that they're expected to cook. let's pick the person who has the most fish experience. And so they find of the 5 all-stars, they find one who's just amazing with fish, like has like a bunch of experience working with fish, like did an internship at a fishery when, when he was in college or whatever it was. And what ends up happening to those other 4 all-stars is that they might hear something like, you were great, you were amazing, but we're gone with another candidate. And if they ask why, well, you didn't quite have as much fish experience as we wanted. And they might be thinking to themselves, oh my gosh, I got to get myself more fish experience. And this is where I think there's this piece of control, what's in our control and what's not in our control. And so what I think is important here is to recognize this is not a normal situation. And I think this is happening a lot right now, a lot more than usual because of this pandemic recession. And so I think it's a good thing to say, to look at feedback like this and say, okay, how can I improve my skill set? Should I maybe get more fish experience, right? In this chef example, should I get more fish experience? Or is this kind of a systemic issue right now that's kind of out of my control at a certain point? And this is just some different things to piece through. Now, in another video, we're going to talk through strategies, right? We're going to talk through, should you try to get more of this experience you don't have? Should you try to, solve this or that? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk through strategies and what I recommend doing. But this video is about discouragement. And so what I think can be happening is, right, we have 4 all-star chefs. And going back to my example, we have 4 all-star chefs that didn't get picked. And when they asked, they were told, you don't have enough fish experience, but you were a great candidate. They might walk away going, I've got to get more fish experience, or I'm not a good chef. Or they might walk away going, there's something fundamentally wrong going on, especially if that interviewer didn't tell them, right? Maybe the interviewer doesn't give that kind of feedback, and they just said, well, we don't want to tell you what it was, but we decided to go with someone else. They might start to have this dread like something's wrong with them. And so this video is about addressing that. So one, what I recommend doing is if you're getting a lot of rejection, you're looking for work, you're getting a lot of rejection right now, and you're dreading that you're doing something wrong, what I recommend doing is having some doubt. Asking yourself, saying to yourself, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Start there. By saying maybe, you're creating a little bit of doubt, right? Maybe. And think about it. Okay. I was told, for example, we're using a different example. I was told that I don't have enough copywriting experience. But you think back and you go, well, I have 2 years of copywriting experience. Actually, I'm a darn good copywriter. Maybe that isn't feedback that I'm not a good copywriter. Maybe it's the feedback that the competition was so strong that there was an even stronger person who appeared to be stronger at copywriting. And it became a decision maker, right? It could also mean, this is another thing here, people might be, I think this is more secondary, but people also might be, because they know that they're in a pandemic recession, if they have a really good job opportunity that they're hiring for, they might also be thinking, if I hold out for a month, maybe I can get a really good all-star, right? Maybe I can get one of those all-stars that might be floating around right now because of everything that's going on. That's also another piece here. So you might find yourself getting passed on a role. Maybe you see that role is still live 3 weeks from now, and maybe they're still holding out for an even better candidate. So it's something just to think about here. Ask yourself, okay, say to yourself, okay, maybe I need this experience. Maybe this is incomplete for my skill set. Or maybe it's a symptom of the pandemic, of the recession. So what do you do with that? So my hope is when you look at this, you're going to say, you're going to have more doubt that you are to blame. But I don't want you to walk away from this video. I don't want you to walk away and say, okay, I don't need to improve at all. Watch this video and it's all the recession pandemic. I don't have to do anything. I just, it's out of my control, right? I don't want you to walk away with that, because you do have certain things in your control. And one of them is to improve your skill set. One of them is to improve your interview skills, right? There's other ones as well. But what I want you to walk away with is some skepticism that there's something inherently wrong that you're doing, especially if what you're experiencing, like one of the examples I provided of the person who never gets passed on the after the first interview, they always get the second interview. And then, if something is happening that is bizarre, that's unusual, it may very well be that it's a symptom of the difficulty climate that we're in. And so some of that discouragement that you're feeling towards yourself can maybe go more towards a realization of this is a really difficult environment. So what do you do with that? Well, so again, like I said, in another video, we're going to talk about strategies. For this video, I'm going to talk about the discouragement. And so one thing I recommend doing is finding somebody, a friend or a mentor, that you can meet with once a week. Meet with them once a week and let them know, I'm looking for work. It's discouraging. And I'd like to just touch base once a week to talk about how it's going. And this is great too if you either have, I say two people will be really great for this. One is a professional mentor, somebody who ideally, who's maybe in a more, like maybe they're not looking for work. And so they're a bit more kind of a home base when you're thinking about this. They can not only guide you, but they also might help you with connecting you with other people or kind of helping you keep encouraged. Another good candidate for someone like this that you can meet with is somebody who's also looking for work, and you can help support each other. And you become more of it almost becomes like a kind of a sort of almost like a sort of a support group for looking for work, right? This is something that I did in the last recession 10 years ago. I had a mentor I met with once, I think it was once a month maybe, or maybe it was more frequent, but I met with them regularly. I think it was once a week. And they basically gave me homework, and they said, every time before we meet, I want you to do 5 job hunting things. And it could be reaching out to somebody, asking for their help, to pass along your resume, or like networking. Like you could reach out to 5 people for networking, or you can reach out to you can submit 5 resumes. You can submit resumes to 5 different jobs, but you have to do 5 different things. You can do 3 of the networking, 2 of the resumes, whatever it is. This actually, I think it can be really helpful because you can kind of feel like, okay, I'm doing something. And you can have some, not only accountability when you have a person like this, but also it can create some semblance of structure in a very sort of unstructured, kind of discouraging situation to know, okay, I'm going to talk to this person once a week. We're going to talk about the 5 things I did. But what's also good about this is you can present that feedback you're getting. You can talk to this person, especially if they're in the same industry. You can say, hey, I'm keep getting the same feedback, or actually better yet, I keep getting completely different feedback about all these different skills that I'm not, good at. Like let's go back to the chef example. Like one restaurant said I didn't have enough fish experience. One restaurant said I didn't have enough frying experience. One person said I didn't have enough like appetizer experience, right? What's going on? It makes me feel like my skill set's terrible. And then maybe you bring that to the person, and then maybe they say, well, I think you could work on this one thing. This one thing seems a bit of a gap. Or maybe they say, actually, I think you're stellar and all this stuff. It just sounds like you're dealing with some really intense competition, right? So you can talk through some of those pieces. But this is, again, about the discouragement element of looking for a job right now. And so as I'm talking to people and I'm helping them with their resumes, one of the things that I tend to do, if they tell me that they're feeling discouraged because of something happening that's unusual, or they're feeling that there's something inherently wrong that they're doing, this is something that I just like to bring up. It's just a certain amount of doubt about, is this something that is really missing that you're doing, either that you need to do differently in interviewing, or you need to put on your resume, or you need to learn to put on your resume, or is it just a symptom of you're facing overwhelming competition and it's very discouraging? And so that's what this video is about. There's going to be more videos, which are going to be on strategies and tactics and some tips. But this video is really just focusing on the discouragement piece. If you, I think for this video, I'll just kind of leave it at that. There's going to be more videos down the road. As always, there's going to be new videos every Wednesday. And so stay tuned for that. And thanks so much for watching.